Welcome everyone here to the quarterfinals where we've got Glaive Esports Onyx versus Gamers for God here, and the teams might sound familiar. Glaive technically is the reigning champions of Excellency Heavy, but that is a very different Glaive. This Onyx team, all new players, and they're fighting for the crown once again here. Gamers for God, on the other hand, 6th place seed. They had a bit of a rough time in the regular season, but they're looking to make miracles happen. I'm Random Minioncaster, and joining alongside me here on the analyst desk tonight, you know him, you love him, Lotus's mid laner here. It's JVL. Welcome, JVL. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm so excited, not only for this series tonight, but to see how each of these teams decide to draft. You know, there's so many. We are playing. Today is a brand new patch. So neither of these teams most likely have had time to scrim on this patch whatsoever. Maybe have a few solo games on the patch, but we could see a really large amount of spicy picks coming in here today in the draft.
For sure. I'm so glad you brought this up, JVL, because it's kind of odd and unfortunate for us that the patch hit just as we entered the playoffs. So all of a sudden, everything changes here. Puffles likes to play the Akali. Akali kind of got nerfed a little bit there in the patch. Karma getting nerfed a little bit. Nocturne, Shinzao as well, sort of the junglers that we're seeing a lot of coming through. And JVL, you mentioned that you're looking forward to see some of the draft changes here. Are there any particular changes to items or champions that you think are going to make an appearance here tonight?
Yeah, so Nocturne, although his sustain in lane was hurt a little bit, his sustain is really not what makes Nocturne such a high priority pick right now in the current meta. He'll still, into many matchups, he'll be completely fine sustaining throughout the laning phase. And just the presence that he brings with his ultimate, the flexibility that he has in draft. Nocturne should be banned red side every game today on both series. If not, then I definitely think that we will see Nocturne being picked up first, if not, really early on in the draft. Other picks still Gwen, Viego, still extremely strong. Irelia actually got a lot of changes this patch, and I'm really curious to see if we do see Irelia get pulled out. They lowered her maximum passive stacks. They kind of skewed her power more into the late game. So, I mean, maybe we see an Irelia come out today, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I don't think either of these teams play it too much here, though. That's the thing with new patches, right? You're never quite sure what exactly is going to pop out here. From what I understand, Irelia's early game took a little bit of a hit here. So, it'll be interesting to see if they do end up scaling things up. Strikebreaker actually getting a bit of a change. And we talked about the fact that Solo likes Renekton a lot. Strikebreaker is sort of one of those big items. You think that's going to make any difference here, JVL?
I'm not too familiar with the Stridebreaker changes. I think they did tone it down a little bit. Ultimately, though, you can just go Conquer Gore Drinker on Renekton. If you still really want to play the Renekton, that is completely viable. Yeah, I think if Renekton is let through the draft, I definitely think that we'll see it being picked up for solo.
Fair enough. And, in the fight cards, we're talking a lot about, what we thought, where we think a lot of the focus will be. We're looking a lot at the mid jungle synergy, the mid jungle duo. But I actually want to talk about the bot lane a little bit because Joshi and Tupper, the 280 carries, they're not particularly standout players in comparison to how the team works. But JV, I wanted to get your thoughts on, the rest of the team, starting with the bot lane and then maybe talking about the top lane after.
Yeah, I definitely think that Tupper and Jado are a solid bot lane duo. I think that they can get exploited in the laning phase in particular, but I do think once they get to team fights, the Tupper can put on really good performances as a backline DPS. And I think if Jado can get some of these picks like Galio that we've seen him play, where he can kind of press R and just have a massive effect globally and on a team fight, or maybe a Nautilus pick, something like that, then I definitely think that Tupper and Jado could have a really strong showing tonight. You want me to just continue up the line for mid jungle?
Let's just hop straight to top. I mean, we talked a little bit about the mid jungle before, yeah.
Top laners. So Giga is a very very good weak side top laner. I've said this before, and I'll continue to stick by my opinion of Giga. I think you put him on something like the GP, where he can have global pressure, but also be able to have some safety in the lane. Something like a Cho'Gath as well, where you can have a lot of utility. I think. Who is Gamers for God's top laner? I'm not even.
It's Saucy.
Not even gonna Saucy. Okay, well, I mean, if that doesn't show you where I think the top lane's gonna lean, then nothing else I can say really will.
Fair enough. I mean, Saucy's been a very stable player, but to be fair, the top lane pool, I feel like this particular split, we've not seen too many carry top laners, so yeah, a little unfortunate that we don't see that. We are, however, into draft now. Once again, Gamers for God on the blue side, Glaive on the red side here. And you're talking about, that safe lane pick, JVL, right away. They're removing that Cho'Gath from Giga.
Yeah, and the Renekton. So Cho'Gath, Renekton, two picks that we were already talking about, already taken off of the board. We're not going to see Solo on his main champ. There's a Zoe, so no mid laners on their main champions already in this first game.
Yeah, that Gangplank, though, still on the table potentially for Giga. And, we're talking about weak side top laners. I feel like Gangplank is one of the signature ones where you can just sort of scale up almost infinitely and then have an impact. You're talking about, supports or bot laners pressing R and having impact on the map. Gangplank literally does the same thing.
Yeah. And there's the Gwen. Now, this has to be either Viego or Nocturne for this last ban on Glaive, third ban here. Gwen taken away, that would have been a really good first ban for Gamers for God. And curious to see what this last ban is.
I don't actually think they've played Viego at all, Gamers for God. I don't know if it's in their champion pools. I mean, it's such a strong meta champion, but it doesn't get banned very often. And there you go. Yeah, they actually let it through. And it's not the Viego. They're still going with that Ezreal, still a strong champion despite the Sunderer nerfs here. And for Glaive, do you think we see an early Gangplank pickup, or do you think they're looking at jungle, the bot side of the map for the first round of rotations here?
Maybe we see a Gangplank on R3 before the second ban the rotation of bans come in. Now, something that's really strong that can be picked up here is not only is a Nocturne still available, which I'm not sure why, making it past this far already. But Lulu Kog'Maw, you could pick up a Nocturne Lulu here, and then you could just pick up Kog'Maw third, and then you already have a really insane bot lane duo with the Nocturne that's flexible. Ezreal being first picked here by Gamers for God is a little interesting to me, but that just tells me that they want to play weak side bottom, and they really want to focus their efforts on the other side of the map.
And we see Tristana being locked in as well. I also feel like they're kind of pinching Solo's pool a little bit. Solo's most played champions are Renekton, followed by Trist and Nocturne in that order there. So suddenly all his most played champions are off the board. And like you said, Nocturne's just such a strong power pick. Tristana is very, very solid as well. So pinching the pool, Set and Karma being locked in here. And we know that Set and Karma can both be flexed around quite a bit. I can't imagine that Para Set support with Ezreal. So it's got to be Karma mid or support so far, right?
Yeah, and with the Karma nerf specifically this patch, they took off 3. There's the R3 Gangplank also that we were talking about, but the Karma nerfs, they took off 3 AD off of her base AD, which is actually pretty big in solo lanes. It makes last hitting a lot harder. It makes trading a lot harder. You're not going to be as able to just shove waves over and over with Karma. You already took attack speed rune on her just to make her last hitting a little bit easier. So I'm definitely assuming that it's going to be the Karma Ezreal bot lane duo. Super safe, really good scaling. And Set could also be flexed to mid and top here. So yeah, we'll have to see what they decide.
Will we go anywhere? The only thing we can kind of we know for sure is that Glaive haven't picked their... Actually, no, we don't haven't picked their support. Yes, we can safely assume that. And Gamers for God have not picked up their jungle. Jungle Set has not been a thing for a very long time here. So they take out the Xin Zhao, but they're going to just go straight for the Silas instead. So a bit of respect coming out. And Gamers for God, are they going to continue focusing out the support pool? Like we said, that's the only thing they know for sure. Hasn't been selected yet.
Yeah, Glaive definitely winning the draft so far right now. Silas is another pick that Solo C has performed well on. He actually played it into Lotus when we played against him, and he did really well. So good ban by Glaive, and Galio being picked up. I mean, this is still a flex pick. So Glaive really has so many options in this draft right now. It makes Gamers for God really, really hard to draft these last two picks.
Yeah, I would be surprised to see Puffles take that Galio. He doesn't strike me as a Galio player, like usually sort of the Zoe, Akali, the carry style champions. And Jado has played a ton of Galio here. I mean, we talked about the fact that Tuper and Jado, they're not the biggest pop-off lane, but they are very, very stable. And I feel like this Galio has been a big part of why that's so. Diana being picked up as the jungle potentially for Gamers for God here. And it could be a Nocturne jungle. There's still jungle is available. So if it were to be that Diana Nocturne, JVL, do you think that's a good pick into the Nocturne here?
I think Diana is one of the only, with Xin Zhao being banned as well, Diana is one of the only other picks. And there's the Irelia. Oh my God, we're actually seeing Irelia. Oh my God. I'm so excited. The Irelia, I love playing Irelia, and the changes are so interesting to me with what they're actually trying to skew her, what direction they're going for. And oh my God, I mean, this draft is super spicy now. Diana is probably the only jungle left that can really answer the clear speed and power of the Nocturne. So I do like the Diana pick. You also get the AP, so now you can pick the AD Irelia mid, and then LeBlanc being picked up for Glaive. I mean, LeBlanc has just really been rising in popularity the past few weeks throughout all of high elo and pro play. So a really good pickup for Glaive. And both of these drafts are really solid.
Yeah, so let's break this down draft by draft. Let's look at Gamers for God first. They've got the poke with the Ezreal Karma there, and they've got a lot of actually aggressive diving capabilities with the set, with the Diana, with the Irelia here. So kind of sort of 2 wanting to go back, 3 wanting to go in. And JVL, I know that you're very excited about this Irelia pickup with all the changes coming through. How do you see this particular composition functioning? How do you see the changes to Irelia actually changing the dynamic of how this composition might work?
Overall, I think Irelia's dynamic is fairly the same. You are having a little bit less power early, like level 1 through 3. Irelia is kind of notorious for getting level 2 or 3 really fast and getting that early solo kill in lane. That's not going to be as prominent anymore. But if they can get to the team fighting stage and they can get, a Diana Irelia set kind of all jumping onto the backline set, maybe peeling off of the Nocturne or Galio that's trying to press forward, then I can definitely see the team fight swinging in favor of Gamers for God. However, Glaive just has so many strong picks. They have the Nocturne, which is arguably the best champion on the patch still. LeBlanc is a really good answer into the Irelia and really strong in itself. Like you already said earlier, Jato on Galio, super comfort. Tuper has played Tristana a few times, and Gangplank for Giga. So they have so much comfort across the board, and they have so much power in these individual champions that I think Gamers for God are really going to have their work cut out for them. And Irelia is going to need to get ahead early. But with a farming jungler like Diana, it's really hard to actually set up for this Irelia. So we're going to have to see.
Yeah, gonna have to maybe brute force a couple of gangs here. The other thing I'm concerned about for Gamers for God is you're talking about the Irelia needing to pop off, potentially the Diana needing to pop off. There's triple globals coming through from Glaive. So it's like, it feels like you've got such a narrow window. And then once they hit 6, suddenly you've got Nocturne, you've got Gangplank, you've got Galio, all which can dogpile, and you don't have a lane. You can kind of go, okay, this is the global lane. We'll punish it because no one can back you up, because you're always going to get backed up by other lanes as well. So Gamers for God, they don't exactly have an early composition. They've got to do this. We'll have to see. Like you said, they have a chance. Team fights, right? Yeah. If they mess that up a little bit here. Now, we know a bit about how their team fight is going to go. Let's talk a bit about the laning here, the 1v1s, the 2v2s. So JVL, we've got set in the top lane, Diana jungle, Irelia mid, Ezreal and Karma bot for Gamers for God. For Glaive, it's more standard, Gangplank top, Nocturne to jungle, LeBlanc mid, Trist Galio. Do you see any sort of major mismatches in the lane where we can expect it to swing heavily in favor of one side in isolation?
Yeah, normally I would say that the Tristana Galio could pressure the Ezreal Karma a little bit, but Ezreal Karma is just such a safe duo lane in the bot, and Jato and Tuper aren't notorious for really pushing advantages in laning phase, so I really don't think we're going to see too much focus in the bot side. In the mid lane, I mean, you're just never ganking LeBlanc as Diana. It's just never going to happen. You're never going to catch her. And Irelia doesn't have any guaranteed CC. Landing that E is going to be super difficult if Puffles can play LeBlanc well. So I really think we're going to have to see this set in the top lane try to take over the lane against the Gangplank. Gangplank not going to be able to really pressure the set too much. Maybe Diana shows up a few times early and gets the set rolling. I think that could be the answer for Gamers for God comp here.
And I love the fact, JBL, that we're looking at this top lane where you went, who's the top lane for Gamers for God? Well, hey, Saucy, here's your chance, buddy.
Now it's on him, yeah.
Fair enough, yeah. And here's your chance, Saucy, to make your name stick in JBL's head here. On top of that, I believe, actually, if Gamers for God wins tonight, they'll be facing Who Flash that fight. So unfortunately, your only chance, JBL, to meet Saucy on the Rift after regular season will be in the grand finals. You heard it here, JBL and myself, we both agree. Glaive, coming through with really strong power picks. They just need to play it straight through, not lose too much in the top side. And then, with their veteran status, with the experience they have, they can close it out nice and easy. Gamers for God, they've got a much more narrow win condition, a lot more trials to surmount. But hey, if you call your team Gamers for God, obviously you're hoping for some divine intervention here. So we'll have to see if that comes through, especially in that top lane. With that, we are going to toss it over to a quick intermission break before we get onto the Rift to get everything set up and make sure we've got everything good to go. So stick around. We'll be right back in a couple minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, NBs of all ages, welcome back to the Excellency Heavy League quarterfinals matchup between Gamers for God and Glaive Onyx. My name is Fennec, joined on the desk today, as always, by Random Ming and Caster, and we are into game number 1, once again, between Gamers for God and Glaive Onyx on the blue side. It is Gamers for God with Saucy in the top lane, Dumpster in the jungle, Solo in the mid lane, Josh in the AD carry position, and Blase in support.
And on the red side here, it's Glaive Esports Onyx, Giga in the top lane, sadly not on Yorick, sadly not split pushing yet. McShootums in the jungle, Puffles MIA in the mid lane, Tooper and Jat-O in the bot lane. And Finnick, right off the bat here, the moment we loaded in, you can see these teams are raring to go. They're trading away. It's a best of 5, and these teams, they aren't starting slow.
Indeed, they are not. Invasive wards slightly in favor of Gamers for God. No, actually, that is a Glaive Onyx ward. So defensive warding comes in from Glaive Onyx. Neither team will know where their jungler starts off of this, although you should be able to tell because both top laners are in the top lane, and therefore there's a leash on both bot. But with both bot laners, or with both junglers starting in the bottom lane, I expect full clears to come out as they move towards top side for Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, you heard it on the AD as well. We're not expecting to see a ton of focus into this bot lane here. Tupper and Jado are just so stable. And Josh and Blase with the champions, Karma and Ezreal, early game, it's so difficult to punish them with the shielding, with the safety as well. But I do want to keep our eyes into the mid lane a little bit here, Finnick, because Irelia LeBlanc is already a very volatile matchup here. And with the changes that came through, we heard that, Irelia is not quite as strong at that level 2, level 3 point anymore. So there's a chance, I feel like, for Puffles to maybe punish if Solo isn't as comfortable after these changes.
Indeed. And something else we were talking about during the break, right, is this Aurelia has had so much of her balance shifted towards that late game, potentially can come into there with the Ezreal in these team fights. As we see Puffles going in onto the enemy Aurelia, that is an easy first blood donated over to the LeBlanc. And McShootums making his early jungle presence known. He's the second team all-pro jungler for a reason, and this is one of his signature picks.
It's kind of funny. We're talking about the fact that Dumpster is usually the jungler who wants to get some ganks really early, get the aggression going. McShootums is more the carry jungler. No, not this game. On the Diana, you need to farm up a little bit bot side. We're seeing a bit of action here, but again, Karma, Ezreal, Arcane Shift should be fine and safe.
Yeah, and the long-term poke of this lane does go in favor of Josh and Blase, but they don't have the all-in potential, right? Glaive Onyx will have kill threat at lower health bars than Gamers for God will in this early stage, and that is really what they're playing at the moment. Meanwhile, in the top lane, though, Saucy trying to get some early trades onto Giga. But Giga's level 4, and McShootums is here. The Q force and the flash out of Saucy. This is not what we wanted to see from Gamers for God. This is their winning lane. You can't afford to fall behind to a gangplank of all things.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, they kind of sacked that lane a little bit for Dumpster. Dumpster did get the crab, looking for the gank mid, but LeBlanc is so slippery there. She's the deceiver for a reason. And if you're going to try and help Dumpster get a hit here, I'm very interested to see where this first level 6 gank goes. It's very commonly spoken about, the first Nocturne ultimate, the paranoia, which lane you go to, how impactful it can be. But I feel like that's true for really any jungler, which has a big level 6 power spike. And Diana's Moonfall, the raw damage it has, you don't need the scaling on. Just having it adds so much gank power to your ability to gank here. You can just go and instantly kill somebody, 100-0 them with the assistance of your lane.
We'll see where the Diana decides to gank. It will be one of the solo lanes. I would expect top lane, just because that is hypothetically your winning matchup. It'll be the easiest lane to build a creep wave in and then dive with the Diana level 6, and Puffles is a lot more slippery, but we'll see what Dumpster decides to do here. Dragon spawning in 10 seconds will be the Mountain Dragon first off the docket.
And for both these teams, it doesn't feel like Mountain's going to be necessarily that impactful. I feel like it's better for Gamers for God a little bit, especially in this top lane for Saucy, but I just don't see how they're necessarily going to get priority here. We're already seeing the shoves starting to come through for Tupper and Jado, and while the poke might favor Josh and Blase here, the wave control doesn't really favor them.
Jado and Tupper pushing this out. Neither jungler in the bottom side of the map, though, so no early Dragon priority quite yet, as Puffles and Solo are even in CS in that mid lane. The farming in the jungle, though, going over to Dumpster, as McShootums did get that early assist. That's about a 200 gold lead for Dumpster at the moment, just off of camps.
Oh, McShootums.
Solo's got level 6, though, and with that, should be able to get out of this one, but he's still going to be feared up. Does not get the ult off. And Solo goes down. Puffles dies in recompense to a flawless duet. It's a 1-for-1 in the mid lane.
Solo played that so well there. You should have been dead to rights, but you managed to find that. And you still have teleport available. Puffles used theirs already to get back to lane. So big advantage for Solo. And now you can kind of look to maybe try and do that dragon here. Dumpster is here. McShootums is not.
And Tupper has to jump in and jump out there. Can't get too aggressive onto Josh at the moment without the Galio there to help out. Giga, though, level 6, now can make his presence felt from anywhere on the map as Dumpster looks for the dive bot lane. One of the lanes we didn't expect the Diana to dive early on that level 6. And yeah, she just decides to leave it.
I mean, she did get spotted on a ward there. They still have control over this dragon pit. We are seeing a bit of trading between Solo and Puffles here. And I think that's pretty important, because if Puffles can hold Solo mid, then we don't see quite as much strength coming through from Gamers for God. But because Puffles backed off here, Dragon being starting up, they don't have vision.
Galio coming in with the Tom Flash, though, on a Jado. Rocket jump forward, goes to the Tupper. He wants to get on a Blase, but he gets rooted up, barely able to rocket jump out of the way in the nick of time as Jado picks up the kill. It's a 1-for-0 thus far, but Tupper and Jado are both very low. But the Dragon priority has been ceded to Glaive Onyx. Solo and Josh are here alongside Dumpster, but Dumpster is only at 200 health, and the recalls are coming in from Jado and Tupper. We'll see if they decide to re-engage. Vanguard's Edge used into the dive, goes the Aurelia, gets a stun on the McShootums, and the Dragon gets taken by Diana as the set finally makes his way into the fight, but unfortunately, for Glaive, McShootums can't get out. It's a 1-for-0 and a Dragon. 2 Gamers for God. Next Dragon going to be the Ocean One, and that will be a flashpoint.
That was a bit of a rough thing to watch there. Glaive had the advantage. Tupper got in and got out with the kill alive. That should have been their win, but they were so low, they based out. And the big difference comes from the top lane. The fact that Saucy was willing to burn that teleport to get down there to help that fight. And frankly, I'm not sure it's worth it. Mountain Drake is going to be nice, but to give that much experience, that much gold to Giga with the teleport advantage as well, that is exactly how Glaive like to play. Get their priority, get their macro strength in the top lane, and then Giga, after he's farmed up a storm, suddenly shows up with, mythic and legendary and just one-shots everyone.
I could not have said it better myself. We were talking about how Saucy, this was the lane that they wanted to get ahead with the set. It's their one winning matchup on the map. And the set's behind off of that TP play. You don't want to let the enemy weak side top laner get ahead of your strong side top lane. That's not how you're supposed to play the game.
But it's how Giga gets to play the game, and that's why he's first team All-Pro here. That's it. Gamers for God have done a very good job so far, not falling behind in the early here. We talked about the fact that their comp is going to struggle a little bit, and they're looking to try and get to the mid game here uncontested at a good spot to be able to then look for those chaos in these fights, find the priority targets, and being only down about 700 gold split across 5 players, that's very, very minuscule. And the fact that Solo has been able to find kills and assists as well to keep even with Puffles, to me, it's another very big point for them in favor of Gamers for God.
Solo, of course, not on the signature Renekton, and this Aurelia pick, something that hopefully we'll see more of this patch. The Aurelia's got the Vamp Scepter, so not going for a Mythic straight off the bat.
Yeah, and that really
Nocturne in with Paranoia, unable to get the flawless deny onto the enemy jungler, and McShootums picks up the kill through the Vanguard's edge.
Dumpster walking right into Dumpster.
Pops the Moonfall onto McShootums. He barely survives that, but Puffles is here to try to trade back on a Dumpsters, pops into the passive, and Distortion's away. It's 1-for-1 in the mid lane.
So volatile, Fennec. It's like, okay, Puffles versus Solo. It's not a 1v1 we're expecting. We didn't think we'd see this much jungle attention mid, because normally speaking, these are slippery champions. We thought we'd see top. I can't recall any ganks into the top lane right now, aside from that level 1 where McShootums was just left looking, only got the flash, never revisited. That flash is back up once again here. If anything, Saucy's losing out. We saw Saucy rotate down again to the mid lane. We talked already about the fact that the TP cost him lane pressure, cost him experience. That roam to mid cost him some more, and he's now down almost 30 CS against this gangplank.
And almost 1,000 gold, almost the entire Glaive gold lead right now is on Giga. And as you mentioned, this is how Glaive like to play. They like getting Giga slowly but surely ahead on this GP pickup. And when he's ready, he will be in these fights or just split pushing. It's really tough to split push up against a Galio Nocturne. This is something that we were talking about during the break.
The fact that there's so many globals to assist. We do see Dumpster there, who did just pick up the Herald with the help of Solo. And you know what? Split pushing might be hard, but if you've got Herald on your side, it becomes that much easier to take down turrets. 2 guaranteed plates if Shelly gets a charge off. And my question kind of is, where's Dumpster going with this Herald here? Which lane are you looking for? We've seen a lot of pressure put into this mid lane, but I feel like it'd be better to get it to the top lane and get Saucy back on even footing, try and close that gold gap with Giga a little bit.
Puffles, though, clearing out the mid lane, has gotten a little bit of a CS lead for himself as Solo makes his way back in. Of course, gold slightly in favor of the LeBlanc, as she does have 2 kills to her name.
Strong point for Glaive here to play through, and with Dragon coming up in 30 seconds here, Glaive are looking kind of primed to make something happen. And I'm looking at Dumpster right now for Gamers for God. We talked about the fact that Dumpster is a ganking jungler, 2-0 right now. You're the strong point of the team. Moonfall is up and available, and I almost want to see them just ganking lanes on cooldown. If Moonfall is available, you're looking for a fight. You can beat the Nocturne at this point. The Mythics haven't come through just yet, and Hextech Alternator is such a strong item.
Puffles caught in a flawless duet, though. Trade might be in a little bit of trouble. Galio coming in with a heroic entrance as we take a look bot side. McShootums might be looking for a Paranoia dive, perhaps just to keep Tooper away, and Tooper has to rocket jump away from the True Shot Barrage as the Rift Herald gets channeled.
Okay, Dragon is up. Shelly pushing bot. There's Prio for Gamers for God, but the vision is not ideal. They will get spotted. And Jado?
Oh, Jado caught by a Moonfall. But that's not who you want to get in that ultimate. The ultimate comes in from Giga. Here comes McShootums with the Paranoia. Now on to Josh. He might be in trouble for the flawless sweat. Able to flash out of the way as Puffles MIA makes his way into the fight. Gets a distortion kill onto Solo. And the Tupper's got a reset. He goes forward onto Joshy, unable to get the follow-up rocket jump. But Puffles is chasing double distortion forward, unable to connect, but that is Dragon priority to Glaive Onyx, and they will pick up the second drink of the game.
A Paranoia, Vidic, was absolutely massive. They could not see Jado to follow up the initial catch there, and cost them everything. If you don't find a kill right off the bat with the Moonfall, if you don't force somebody out immediately, you lose that fight at this point, and they lose the Dragon for it. Ocean Drake as well. We get ourselves an Inferno map, and Finnick, we thought the Dragon fights before this were already huge points of contentions. It's only going to get worse now that it's Inferno. Neither team's going to want to let that extra damage go.
I mean, it's a great Dragon Soul on Ezreal, on Diana, on Tristana, on LeBlanc, all these heavy burst champions. Love to see an Infernal Soul. Puffles, though, looks for the root onto Solo, able to distortion away, but unfortunately for Puffles, there's really not much you can do against Conqueror Aurelia without some backup.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say that, but it looks like a pretty decent trade. But yeah, it is a little risky. And as long as that paranoia is down, I guess they don't necessarily have to or want to play aggressively. Glaive is doing perfectly fine right now. And I think a lot of the game is going to come down to just playing around cooldowns of your junglers for the most part. But Josh taking a lot of poke, a lot of damage here. And you're kind of forced into a bad decision. If you back, Tristana gets a ton of damage on your turrets. If you don't back, there's dive potential, especially now that McShootums has Paranoia back online.
I mean, Jado as well, about to come back up with the hero's entrance. We see the double recall from Glaive Onyx, though, as we have quite a bit of gold on Tupper. They force the flash out of Blase, as Joshi is nowhere to be found.
Not ideal that they lost the flash, but they do at least slow down the timing from Tupper and Jado so that they don't get the ideal timing. I just don't know if Josh can push fast enough to make it worth it. Divine Sunder is online, though, so that should make the lane feel a lot better, even safer for this Ezreal. And I think this is Gamers for God sort of. You're almost at that power spike where you want to be making something happen before you start worrying about Glaive outscaling you here. As I say that, though, Giga taking down the first turret of the game. Not Divine Sunder, actually Trinity Force Gangplank.
Yeah, Divine Sunder got nerfed. I think a lot of people still think Divine Sunder is the better of the two Sheen items at the moment. Yeah. But with Puffles in trouble, he's got to make his way out for the Vanguard's Edge. McShootums in, though. And an easy kill to the Glaive jungler. He's 2-2 and 4 on this Nocturne, 100% KP.
What can Dumpster find in exchange now? We saw the jungler from Glaive make something happen, and you just got to be so aware of that cooldown. Cannon Barrage is still available as well. I mean, we talk so much about the paranoia, but there's more than one global here. They actually leave the turret standing as Saucy manages to chase them off, but it's bait. This turret's basically dead, and with the Gangplank, Nocturne, and LeBlanc, they dive you easy.
Yeah, Giga's also got an Executioner's Calling completed as well. He does not want to deal with this Aurelia with the Bork. Knows that that's going to be his opponent in the sidelines as we get towards this mid lane, or mid game, excuse me. And with the Bork completed on Aurelia, we'll see which mythic she decides to go.
Like, it feels like the game's starting to run away a little bit from Gamers for God. They had a solid early game, but out of nowhere, seemingly, it's a 3,500 gold lead here for Glaive in the mid game, where we're saying Gamers for God have a chance to turn the tides. Solo once again here, getting caught out.
For the flawless duet, here comes McShootums, and it's an easy kill to Puffles. Has to make his way out, as Joshi did land a W.
4 for 3 in the mid lane here, and Gamers for God, you're just kind of left trying to defend this. If you step out, you're in trouble. And Jado is baiting with his body. They see the control ward, and he still tried to recall into that bush. A little bit of disrespect is going to cost them
Puffles. That board. Whew. Breaks the tether at the end of the timing there. The arcane shift. Next dragon spawning in 50 seconds. Priority currently to neither team, maybe slightly in favor of Glaive Onyx as they have invasive wards on Gamers for God's jungle.
Teams are just setting up for that dragon here. It is that most important thing, and most of all the ultimates are going to be up and available. That Vanguard's Edge, the only one we're waiting for. Most of the flashes are up as well. I think Josh is the only one. I'm not sure if his flash or Blaze's won't be available here. So we could potentially see our first big 5v5 of the game here, Finnick. And I need to see Saucy coming into the fights as well. Giga is starting to rotate already on this Gangplank. You know, once that first mythic comes through, you start becoming very useful already, and we didn't see the set dominate the lane early, which was what we were hoping to see. And late game, he's definitely not going to match the scaling. So this is sort of that last window as we're approaching that 20-minute mark.
Nocturne down bottom, gets the flash out of the enemy mid laner. Flawless duet lands on the 2, but Puffles gets the kill. And this is just bullying on a solo at this point. 1, 7, and 2. 7 of his team's 8 deaths are on this mid laner, and that's through no fault of his own. McShootums and Puffles just dominate onto solo consistently.
And this is that lane. This is supposedly the main carry here for Gamers for God in their early to mid games. And if Solo's this far behind, I don't know if you can do anything. I'm guessing that rework really hurt here. They're looking for Giga. No Moonfall.
Yeah, 1v3, you don't win those as GP, but he will clear the wave with the Cannon Barrage. At least there's some recompense there. Giga, though, I'm not sure about that one, Chief.
You know what? Okay, Giga's just buying time, right? Tupper, they're going to take a mid lane tier 2 for their pain here. Okay, it's low. They don't take it on this push. They'll get bot lane outer. So okay, then it's not kind of worth it for Giga anymore. You just traded a kill for nothing. 2 turrets traded. So we'll have to see how that kind of works here. It's a lot expended, though. And sure, they got Shelly, but they had to use Shelly to bust it. And Dragon did go in favor of Glaive while that was happening. So the Dragon stacking going to continue in favor of Glaive. The additional damage as well. And we spoke about the fact that Solo's 1-7. Look across the table here. Puffles is 5-1. And LeBlanc with stacking Inferno is what nightmares are made of.
But the key factor, I think, is McShootums. He's still at 100% KP this game. Currently sitting at 2, 2, and 6. We'll see if he's able to keep that number as high as it is. The only other kill not on Solo has been on the Karma. And once again, I don't even think it's Solo playing badly. I just think it's just straight up bullying and the Aurelia not having the same early power that she used to have.
And we have to remember too, Solo didn't play Irelia at all this split. So this is a bit of a change, right? And considering that the patch just hit today, Solo had to have known what he was getting himself into when he picked this Irelia. It was picked fairly late. And granted, the LeBlanc was a counter pick, but still, it's not just about the laning at this point. It's a lot about the skirmishes, trying to even move out of lane here and just not respecting the globals coming out from Glaive. Gamers for God, they need to make a change, and soon here. They need to find a way into it. And I've been saying they need a big team fight. We've not seen it whatsoever. And if you're not going to go for that team fight, well, then Dumpster and Solo need to start roaming together, because I think that is, those two, that duo is where you're really going to be able to find quick picks.
And something that we haven't talked about yet is Glaive Onyx has a dive potential on this comp. And if you're up against a comp with dive potential, right? With this Nocturne Galio plus a follow-up of the Tristana and LeBlanc, you can't afford to play passively. But Gamers Forgot is in a rock and a hard place because they can't play aggressively either, because they just get taken away by the globals of Nocturne Galio.
You've got to be able to track that, and a lot of that comes to Vision. Right now on the map, Vision is heavily in favor of Glaive. Gamers for God have nothing outside their own jungle, and it's reflected by the turrets. They've lost all their outer turrets here. They've not been able to actually reach any of the neutral objectives when they've been up for the last 2 dragons here. So in a bit of a rough spot, Solo actually going to get spotted on this board. Paranoia is up. If I were them, I'd be real worried now about the fact that Josh is low and that everybody's bot side.
Tupper, rocket jump, buster shot! Joshi barely gets out with the use of the flash and the heal.
Okay, when I said that they have to be careful for Josh, I did not mean in the 1v1. I was talking about with Mac Shoot'ems, but that is
Puffles gets
not
a root,
good
though,
sign for them.
On a Solo, he looks for the follow-up route, and the extra damage, distortion forward, gets a sigil! And Puffles with the solo kill, bot side. Doesn't even care about the tower, just honey badgers it. And it's a minute and 22 seconds on the dragon as another tower falls in favor of Glaive.
You know what, Finnick, you're talking about dive comp. I think Glaive, they're ahead enough at this point. You're 4K gold up, levels as well. You're in a really solid position. You can just start to siege up here. Yes, there's an Ezreal who's really good at poking you down in siege situations. There's a Karma for wave clear as well. Same with the Diana. But at the same time, I think the barrels are going to be more than sufficient. Divine Sunder does more damage if you're tanky, but if you're all kind of squishy targets, Trinity Force is going to do just as well. Cerulda's Grudge picked up, and one thing about LeBlanc as well is that while she is an assassin, she actually has very reliable poke with the distort. Unless you've got on-demand point and click CC, which they don't, you can actually poke even under turrets by distorting in, throwing out your sigils, and then just hopping out, waiting for your cooldowns to reset.
Yeah, and I mean, level 14, about to get to level 16, which of course lowers the cooldown on Mimic even more. But Joshi, meanwhile, playing towards this bot lane. We see the Infernal Dragon spawning in 11 seconds. Should be sole point for Glaive if this goes uncontested.
Gamers for God have an avenue in. They have vision on the bot side of the map in their jungle here. It's narrow, but they should know that they can actually at least walk up to the dragon. But they need to do it now. Dragon is already up. Tupper is already attacking it, and so is McShootums. But there's no reaction.
Barrage a little bit early and misses the Drake. Unfortunate. Soul point to Glaive.
Yeah, and it's blind. They have no vision. So they just kind of have to pray and hope, and they're just giving this up. They didn't even clear vision on the Baron side of the map here, and this is not what you want to see. When you're behind, you need to be proactive.
Dumpster now in trouble from Jado. Flash, here comes the paranoia. Goodbye, Dumpster. Tupper picks up the kill on the reset. Rocket jumps away, and they move towards Baron without the enemy jungler on the map. 2, 2, and 7. 1 kill off 100% KP is McShootums, with yet another paranoia leading to a kill.
Puffle is still pushing this bot lane as well. You can't do anything about it. TP is available. There are wards, and look at Blase.
Oh, Blase, he flashes in. Montracuse, here comes the Vanguard's Edge, but the Galio, he's already got the heroic entrance as Tupper tries to cut away with the rocket jump. Buster shots, gets the bomb into Solo, and Solo's out of the fight as Tupper finally gets the kill. The set gets in a little bit late, gets a nice haymaker onto 4 members, but it's a little bit too late as Puffles goes unstoppable. Now looks for Blase, gets the root. Tupper killing spree, and a double kill for the AD carry of Glaive. Onyx, it's 3 for 0, and Glaive have routed Gamers for God.
Puffles TPs in and doesn't immediately join the fight. Actually waits for the flank to pick up. The patience on this guy is the reason why he's 7-1-3. For Gamers for God, though, their mission is accomplished. Their job was to try and stop Baron. Yes, they left a lot of bodies behind, but if you lose Baron, it's game over. Yes, you've accelerated the pace of the game in favor of Glaive, but you take that trade. And more importantly, Josh, on this Ezreal right now, with that Mira Mana and the Divine Sunder, we saw how much damage he can put out in these fights. And more importantly, the moment Paranoia is down, Glaive is struggling, even with the LeBlanc, to find this Ezreal.
Meanwhile, Solo finally completes his mythic. It is the Immortal Shield Bow, so we're at a 20% lifesteal for this Aurelia plus Conqueror. But I'm going to be real. I think she needs a Sterix Gauge before she can even think about taking a fight. She gets bursted down way too quickly for that Conqueror to even proc.
Fair enough. I don't know if the lifesteal is going to come in handy. So far, Solo's not really been able to get that many autos off, and you just kind of hop in, get popped immediately. I'm more interested in the fact that Puffles picked up a mid-guys. That is a vote of confidence here coming through, and why not? Your Darksteel was already fully stacked here. You've put a target on yourself, though, and considering that you're 7-1-3 and you're the bulk of your team's kills, the bulk of your team's gold here, Gamers for God, you know, that's the clearest sign you're going to get who you need to take down in these fights.
But at the same time, Puffles is very, very slippery, and as you mentioned earlier, there is no point-and-click stun or root or anything of that from Gamers for God, so you need to mind games the LeBlanc with one of your skill shots, most likely Flawless Duet. We'll see if they're able to lock down Puffles as McShootums looks to be in a little bit of trouble. Dashed upon. Here comes the Moonfall and the Vanguard's Edge. That's 2 ultimates for a jungler. And that should be enough for Baron Prio to go to Gamers for God. Now it's Glaive's turn to defend this objective.
A little overconfidence, I think, from Glaive there. They didn't really have the vision. They were kind of establishing the ward line, and you need to establish vision as you go along. If you're already in there for a while before you establish it, you're opening up yourself to fights. As you said, Gamers for God, looking at this Baron, though, it's very, very risky. And sure, McShootums is dead, but he's also got Paranoia. The rest of the team's coming to try and stop you, and Baron is not going down fast enough.
Cannon Barrage coming in. Giga on the wings, has a barrel set up. Here comes Puffles. Nearly deletes Joshi off the face of the earth as Tupper gets engaged up by Dumpster. Tries to get the Bumster shot out, but he still gets going down as Joshi's unable to make the Winds of War connect onto the enemy AD carry. Solo picks up Jado, and it's 2-4-1 in favor of Gamers for God. But Glaive Onyx, they've stopped the Baron, and they have the health bars. Let's see if they continue to chase. Puffles looks for the distortion, double distortion over the wall, and he gets it. Puffles dominating 8-1-4, now 16 stacks on the Magi's.
This point, I'm not calling that a dive comp, Finnick. That is just a flat-out assassination composition. If they find you, they kill you. You're not safe under your turret. You need to run all the way back into your base there. And I'm actually surprised Josh survived, considering Puffles just dove on him immediately there. And that was why I had concerns about Gamers for God going for it. I understand the Hail Mary attempt, but I think you're better off trying to set up the ambush there. And you wait till that cannon barrage is used to grant you vision. Because they cleared everything out moving in, they knew it was safe to start up, and you know that they're going to have to check with that cannon barrage or a body. Either way, you wait it out, you look for a kill. Dragon coming up. This is soul for Glaive if they can get it. And Gamers for God, they're not set up for this, but they don't have a choice.
They don't have the inside track. They don't have enough vision in the pit. They might try to get a steal. They can't find it. The soul goes over to Glaive Onyx, and they immediately take down the enemy mid laner. Unfortunately, double-digit deaths for Solo this game. He has more than half of his team's deaths. Just getting bullied on this Aurelia.
Solo Bolo? the Aurelia definitely not working out here, Finnick. And it's getting to the point where I think anybody can 1v1 Solo here. They're having to check into this with a gangplank. This is so difficult
and
here.
Puffles is on the wings. He looks for Blase, gets the root and the sigil. Puffles out MIA is legendary as the rocket jump comes forward on it. Joshi. In comes the moonfall, but it's only on one member, and he's immediately taken down by Puffles Distortion. It's 3-4-0 now, including that Aurelia, and an easy Baron for Glaive Onyx.
Puffles is fully stacked. The Magi's 25 there, died once early in the game. Void Sap as well. Gamers forgot, you can't build enough magic resistance at this point to deal with Puffles. Your best hope, Anathema's Chains, or you flat out just burst Puffles down. And so far, you can't burst Puffles because you can't find Puffles. He's never the first one in, and now with the Baron buff as well, the siege is about to come into force. We talked about the fact that you have a Diana, you have a Karma, they can wave clear, but not against a Baron buff, which reduces the magic damage that minions take here. Glaive just need to kind of group up, push in. They can split push 4-1. It's just as efficient.
Almost a 1v2, just deletes Blase. And here's the thing, you've mentioned Anathema's Chains. Well, that only works if the enemy team's only got one damage source, and the Tupper, 4-1 and 5, is now on 3 items on the Tristana. He's into the game, and now will be probably doing the most damage of his team in the fights.
We don't care about Tupper right now. You care about a fully stacked LeBlanc. And sure, Tupper's a problem, but he's a problem for another day here.
He's on 3 items. He's now a problem. This is Tristana's 3-item spike. What are you talking about, random?
Talking about Puffles. Puffles going in 1v4 in the turret. That's what I'm talking about. You can't deal with that. Forget about Tupper. Tupper's taking your turrets. He's not taking your life.
Puffles, another flash, double distortion, can't get the kill to connect. But they got the Baroned up cannon minion in this mid lane tower, and Glaive are just toying with their food at this point.
They're waiting for Giga to bring in the wave in the top lane as well right now, because he is on that turret. And now that they're coming in together, I think this is real risky for Gamers. If they step away, if they see
Distortion forward into the showstopper, they might get Puffles. No, Distortion out of the way, and Puffles MIA is out of the fight. Paranoia to disengage. It is a defensive paranoia, but Puffles keeps his 25 stacks, and the mid lane tower has gone down.
Puffles is single-handedly pretty much distracting 3 to 4 members there. Tupper gets the free fire, and Puffles goes back TPs immediately. They're not wasting time with this Baron whatsoever.
What?
Oh my god.
That was before I could even see what happened. Just insta Gibbs Joshi? I mean, this game's over, random, but like... This is why LeBlanc is on my list of champions that I permaban alongside Zed. Like, both of those champions, I just permaban. Flash in from Jado, he gets onto Saucy, into the knockup, gets the kill immediately for Puffles. They get a 3-man Moonfall, but it's not going to be quite enough as the Galio comes back in with the ultimate and immediately gets a kill back. Solo goes down, Dumpster's the next one to fall, but the Nexus has gone down. And Glaive Onyx take game number 1 in a very convincing fashion.
Finnick, I think you put it best around the mid game there when you said that's bullying coming through from Glaive there. McShoot'ems and Puffles. This jungle mid duo hard carried the early to mid game. And at the end of the day, when you see Puffles doing magic tricks, Puffles made Saucy vanish. The tankiest member of Gamers for God got 2-shot by this LeBlanc here. That's when you kind of know it's done. And honestly, I'm not sure what Gamers for God could have done. I guess like JBL called it, it is a bit of a draft difference in game one here. The good news, it's a best of 5 and draft differences are always the easiest problems to fix.
Indeed they are, but that's a very tilting loss if you're Gamers for God. You got absolutely demolished by 2 members of Glaive, and you didn't win any of your lanes, even the ones that you were supposed to win. So you need to find a mental reset and find something else to play through. We'll see if they decide to do that into game number 2. But first, we're going to send it to the analyst desk to get you even more info about game number 1. JVL and Random, take it away.
What a game 1 that was, eh?
Definitely a banger. JBL, you got to watch it here on the stream, follow what was going on. Give me your thoughts right away, because I'm speechless after watching that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Irelia pick in draft, blind picking on Irelia mid. I was super excited, first day on the patch, Irelia coming in hot. But unfortunately for Solo, they really took advantage of the Irelia, especially early throughout the laning phase. We talked about it before going into the game. It's extremely hard for Irelia to actually get a lead into the LeBlanc, especially when your jungler is a Diana, where Diana does not have any crazy early game setup, or especially into LeBlanc, where LeBlanc can so easily just distortion away from an incoming gank or an Irelia all in. And then we had the Nocturne coming mid and getting the LeBlanc so far ahead. It just became a massacre, honestly, after LeBlanc got those handful of kills at the beginning.
Yeah, so I noticed you mentioned sort of 2 things here. One was the fact that Irelia was blind picked, and the Nocturne also being a bit of an issue here. So Gamers Forgot, I believe, are selecting red side for game 2 here. So they get counterpicked. Do you think the Irelia is worth picking again? Or do you think, the one time we've seen it on stream so far, it got absolutely dumpstered, that you think it's not really a safe pick, even if, unless it's like a hard counter pick. Is it really worth selecting here in this matchup?
I think since they're on red side and they have last pick, if Puffles ends up picking something like Azir or maybe Orianna or even Zoe, where they're not as mobile as the LeBlanc and you can actually really take it to them on the Irelia, and maybe you draft something like a Volibear or Xin Zhao in the jungle, where you have more early pressure and you can actually play through the champions that you're picking, then maybe we can see it picked again. But I mean, if I were Gamers Forgot, I wouldn't be exactly hopping on the chance to pick the Irelia again in game 2.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit of a rough pickup. Now, it is a best of 5s here, and throughout the regular season, we've been playing blocks of 3, where win or lose, you play 3 games here. This time, potentially we see another block of 3 if Glaive can just smash their way through. But is there mentally, do Glaive take, now that they've got to win their pocket, do you think they're going to keep drafting standard power picks here? Do you think they're going to start experimenting a little bit? And for Gamers Forgot as well, what do you think the mental is going to be like? Do they just run a salty run back with the Irelia change, or are we going to see something wildly different from them?
I mean, I hope we see a switch up for Gamers Forgot. The Nocturne should definitely not be let through again. I mean, we've seen mixed shoot'ems over and over on the Nocturne having massive impacts on the game, and Nocturne cannot be let through for Glaive, especially now they have blue side first pick. It needs to be banned first rotation, and maybe, I believe the Galio was picked up second rotation as well last game for Glaive. Try to take away some of this global pressure and some of these comfort picks from Glaive, and then maybe we can see a change of pace here in game 2.
For sure. So a lot focus on the Glaive's draft. I mean, obviously, I guess it was a bit of a draft tip, so we necessarily have to hit out some of their global strengths here. But individually, player-wise, JVL, in that first game, who do you think the MVP was? I know that Puffles had the most kills, but do you think Puffles deserves MVP for game 1?
I think that once you are 5-1 on LeBlanc, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, it becomes incredibly easy to get 10-1 on LeBlanc or whatever the ending score was. I think mixed shoot'ems, identifying, okay, Irelia is going to be insanely easy to gank. If Irelia ever wants to try to get a lead in this early game, they're going to have to go aggro inside of the laning phase. Just come mid, get LeBlanc ahead. Simultaneously, you're shutting down the enemy's win condition. So I think that I would have to give it to the jungler for the MVP of that game.
Okay, mech shoot'ems. I guess that's the reason why you made all pros here coming through from them there. I will say I wasn't particularly impressed with Giga's Gangplank, but I figured that's just how it is, right? With Gangplank, you just farm up a storm. And then Trinity Force, versus Divine Sundra. Your thoughts on that? You know, did you think Trinity was the right item to go there?
Trinity Force versus Divine Sundra for Gangplank?
Yeah.
I mean, Giga's the Gangplank player more than I am, so I'm gonna trust Giga with his decision of what to go, you know, on the Gangplank. I've seen him play it quite a few times, does pretty well, so yeah.
Okay, fair enough, and we'll have to see what else Giga is going to pull out of his pocket, whether he's on Gangplank duty all the game. I mean, if you don't ban it, it ain't broke. Don't fix it. That said, speaking of things that are broke, we do have some technical difficulties that we do need to address right now. So we'll be throwing to a short intermission before we get into draft here, and hopefully we'll get things fixed up and be back soon. Don't touch that browser. We'll be right back.